we got ourselves the instruction manual, very nicely packed. Filament dryer here in the really nice foam. So we're going to go ahead and open it up and get it set up. So the filament dryer comes in 3 separate parts, all safely packed together with this nice thick foam. So the housing units themselves fit nicely onto the dryer unit. So they don't lock in there, they just sit there nicely. The tops of the boxes themselves, where the filament can be fed out to keep the unit sealed, is actually on both sides. So you have that flexibility to either have it between 2 separate 3D printers. You know, if I had one on the right side and one on the left side, I could run it out both. I just have a nice flexibility with that. Each filament box can hold up to 2 rolls of 1 kilogram standard filament rolls at the same time. You can mix and match the type of filaments that you have per box, but if you're trying to dry each, you have to do it per box. The first box actually has the power cord and the feeder tubes taped inside, so make sure that when you're doing the assembly that you take that out. Inside, so you know, each unit here has the 4 tubes, right? It's got the filtration system. It actually has a lock that turns and then snaps in. Kind of hear it snap in. And then also in the bottom here, you'll see are these rollers. So unlike other systems where you might see a holder that slots in on the side, right, and you pull the holder out and then put the spool in, these are actually meant to help with the movement of the spool as it's going around. Now my filament dryers came set up with the desiccant dryers, so I don't actually have to pull up on this to then load it. You can see that they're already in there. And there's 4 in total, so there's 2 on this side and 2 on that side, and they're really easy to install. Some units come with them separated, in which case then you just have to pop open the unit, and then others come with them pre-installed like mine, which was great because then all I had to do was just make sure that they were in there, and then all I do is pop the rollers back in. They're really, really easy to take in and out. Now, the other thing that's supposed to come with the unit are the humidity cards, and those humidity cards actually fit up inside this area here, right? So this little slider sits up into here, and the humidity cards are indicators for what the percentages are. So something to note on the box itself is that these magnetic plates that are there may arrive where they're set up covering the air intake. You want to make sure that those are removed before you actually start printing, or otherwise it's not going to work and it's really going to mess up your system. You can see here in the base itself that you have the 2 airflow units. So this is where the hot air is rising up out and getting into the filament holders, and so those plates, if they're not situated properly, are going to block that airflow. So the back of the unit has the power cable. It also has the power switch there. It's really easy. You just take it and then plug it into back here. I've got mine going into a power strip, protector strip in the back over there, just in case. Plug that in, and once it's plugged in, just hit the power switch and you're good to go. So now with the unit powering on, I've decided to keep the screen protector on there. I don't really care if I were to take it off. There's so many things that could go sideways when you're 3D printing, and the last thing I want to do is like scratch it, so I might as well keep it on there and keep it nice and set. Okay, so now that we have the screen set up, you can adjust it up or down as needed, depending on what your preference is. You know, if it's sitting up high, you can have it flat. If you've got it like this, where it's at an angle, it's just easier to read it. My 3D printer's got about a 30 to 45 degree angle here. So the other thing you'll notice is that you have options for setting the temperature and the humidity control on each unit separately. So that's unit number 2, the housing unit number 2, and then housing unit number 1. So these are just the default settings that came with it. If you got shipped a filament dryer that's defaulted to Chinese, what you do is you go to the settings menu. It's the gear icon down at the bottom. You scroll over to page number 2. The first line is the language button. So you click that, and then you can see Chinese or English. Hit English, and you hit save, and boom, it's all set to go. So now you can actually read what's going on. You can go and you can actually select 4 different presets for each of your filament holders. So this is filament holder 1. These are all defaulted to the same temperature and the same drying time. Same with number 2. You can set it for both, but really what you're wanting to do is, if you have different types of filament, you know, PLA or PETG or ABS, and depending on where you're storing your units, you can customize your control. So we talked a little bit about each box having a temperature control. Within each box, you can choose default settings here for the filament type. So there's your PLA, PETG, the ABS, and then the PA-PC. Another really great feature that I want to showcase here is that this unit has something called the intelligence control. So in the settings button down here at the bottom, you can click on intelligent control up there at the top, and you'll see there's 3 different options: automatic drying, silent mode, and the filament box automatic identification. The automatic drying starts drying when humidity exceeds 50%, and then it just stops when it's below 25%. So I'm here in the desert. It doesn't get very humid, but when it does, and let's say I'm away from the house, or you know, I'm upstairs or in a different room, whatever it might be, I can have this automatically kick on without me having to rush down here and get it fixed. Silent mode is really cool because it lowers the fan speed and noise. This is great if you have something inside a house. Maybe it's in the evening, you're done running the machines, or let's say you're filming something and you don't want that background noise. This is a really great feature to just have. Filament box auto detection. It detects if the chamber is properly installed, and then if it's not, so if those plates were covering the heated plate at the bottom, this automatically detects that and then stops. So it protects the system from overheating and frying itself out. So earlier in the video, I was talking a little bit about the filament holes that are here. So you can see that these are rubber stoppers. You just pop them out, and they fit the filament right through. While you can just run the filament right through it, what they're actually recommending is to use one of these little filament tubes. They come in the bag. There's about 8 of them. What you do is you just pop it into the holder itself, and then you'd run the filament up and through the tube. This prevents the filament from rubbing against these rubber stoppers. While they'll probably be okay for the most part, if they're heated, if the filament's been used before, if there's, I don't know, a temperature fluctuation, whatever, or if it gets pinched, you could run into a problem where it breaks. So the tube just helps guide it along without it actually becoming a problem. First impressions on this is that this is a really solid unit. It's made well, feels sturdy, doesn't feel cheap. The screen interface is fantastic. The fact that it has lots of options available for the unit itself, regardless of which box you're using. It's new printer user friendly. Sometimes you get dryers or accessories that seem intuitive, and then you get into setup and it can maybe take a few different tries, or the guide that's provided by the company doesn't quite match the product, or worse still is that you have a brand new item and then you have to download the new firmware, but if it's not clear in the instructions, or if you're not even sure what that is, it could cause problems. Really, this is great out of the box. The fact that you can print right out of the filament holder boxes is really amazing. I would say that if you live in an area that's just always humid, regardless of temperature within the house, regardless of humidity control within the house, any filament dryer, but especially this one if you're brand new, this is worth it. I think something that gets overlooked a lot with 3D printing is the time that larger prints take. You know, if you have a piece of terrain, piece of armor, a large model, something like that, that you're looking at 16, 18, 24 hours worth of printing, a lot can happen in a given day, depending on the season that you're in, depending on your location. Temperatures can fluctuate in your print area if it's not inside, or in a temperature controlled room. So having a filament dryer that allows for consistent temperature control is really, really important. Something like this, if you have the multicolor printer, if you have 4 3D printers, whatever your setup is, this is a great feature to have available that doesn't cost you a lot of space, and for the price that it brings, definitely saves on loss of filament. Talked about the pros a little bit of the device. There are very few cons, honestly. It's not something I would recommend to anybody who's in a very dry climate. So, I wouldn't necessarily benefit from it. If you're living in the Southwest, maybe. If you're living in a super arid, dry climate, you're really not going to need. You'd probably be fine with storing your filament elsewhere. Chitu is very good with their product and their product support. So it's not like you're going to be left in the lurch if you buy this and then something isn't working or it breaks after a little bit of usage or whatever it might be. As I mentioned, I'm missing those humidity cards, so I'll reach out to them and see if I can get some replacements. So that's my brief review of the Chitu Systems Filapartner 3D printing filament dryer. I think it's worth it if you need a filament dryer and you've got multiple machines, whether you're using the same filament or different types of filament. It's well worth the space that it takes up, and is very, very user-friendly. This is a great product to keep your filament dry, to save you cost of broken filament that doesn't print properly. Multiple things can go wrong in any printer at any given time, regardless of print job. So if you have something under control like the humidity and the control of where it's stored, this is a fantastic device, and we definitely recommend picking it up if you are looking for a filament dryer.